Part 89. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 881. A male cultivator staggered out of the 8 wasteland valley and found that the cultivator who was driven out was there indignant, angrily denouncing the Dragon Emperor's tyranny. Of course, some people were also asking if there was any news about the storage ring. Brother Wang, you are the last one to come out. Did you find the storage ring? At this time, a cultivator suddenly reached out from behind and put his hand on his shoulder, which scared him. No, I just walked too deep and came out too late, and I was almost killed by the Dragon Emperor. The cultivator surnamed Wang couldn't help but evade a little. But he was not discovered. Hey, I don't know if he hid it privately. Maybe Tu Cheng really blew himself up, and the ring couldn't withstand the explosion. It's a pity for those spirit stones. It's good, at least we didn't let Tu Cheng run away. There were different opinions, and these people also scattered like birds and beasts. Huh. The cultivator breathed a sigh of relief, forced himself to calm down, and walked towards the depths of Tianwai Tian. He didn't have time to see what the colorful light was, but it appeared at the bottom of the valley for no reason, so it must be a spiritual weapon at least. After all, such a big explosion blew up the ring, but the light was intact. Maybe, this is my King Musek's chance. Wang Qingshu said so. He walked all the way and found that no one followed him. He ran for dozens of hours and finally returned to his sect. King Mu sect is a third-rate sect, located on a mountain. The mountain is called King Mu Peak, and it is named after the green color of the mountain. However, the spiritual power of King Mu Peak is not that strong. Wang Qingshan is the current leader of King Mu section. Except for him, there is no one in the entire sect who has reached the God transformation stage. Master, are you back? As soon as he arrived at the mountain gate, several Yuanying came to greet him, with hopeful looks in their eyes. There were some accidents on this trip, and we didn't get any spiritual swords from the Sword Valley. As soon as Wang Qingshan said this, the faces of these nascent souls became lonely. Okay, don't worry, spiritual tools and the like are all external things. You all practice well. If anyone can trigger the heavenly tribulation and successfully reach the God transformation stage, this sect master will agree to buy a spiritual sword from the Sword Valley. After saying this, he walked straight into the sect. After all, he is the master of a sect, so he still has such majesty. After arriving at his retreat place and carefully setting up restrictions, Wang Qingshan took out the colorful light from his ring. It turned out to be the Dao glass mirror. It's actually a broken mirror. Wang Qingshan looked strange, and turned the Dao glass mirror over on both sides, but he couldn't see any clues at all. He didn't understand the way of tools, so he could only rely on his feelings. He felt that the material used to make the mirror was very unusual, but the problem was that no matter how he transferred spiritual power to the mirror, there was no reaction. Strange, could it be just a magic weapon? Wang Qingshan was puzzled. Only magic weapons have no spirits, and spiritual power cannot communicate with them. But how could a magic weapon be intact in such a self-explosion? Could it be that the spirit was also blown to death? When this thought came to mind, Wang Qingshan felt a little unbelievable. There are many mysterious things in the world, but he has never heard of this. Could it be that this mirror is just a heart-protecting mirror, a defensive magic weapon? Wang Qingshan fiddled with it again and found that if it was placed on the chest, it would be almost the same, so he simply took out his own life spirit weapon. It turned out to be a spiritual sword. After placing the Dao glass mirror, Wang Qingshan concentrated his mind, circulated his spiritual power to the sword, and then stabbed it out with the sword. Swish! The sword broke through the air, extremely sharp, and rushed straight to the Dao glass mirror. Clang! The sound of metal clashing sounded, and the majestic spiritual power immediately filled the entire cave. Then, there was a crisp sound. Crack. This spiritual sword actually broke. Puff. Wang Qingshan was seriously injured immediately, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and then fell into a coma. The natal spiritual weapon is connected to the mind, and his sword was broken, so his mind was naturally damaged. This was something he had never expected. In order to test the defensibility of Daoliuli Mirror, Wang Qingshan attacked with all his strength, but Daoliuli Mirror was an immortal mirror, and his spiritual sword was just an ordinary spiritual sword bought from Jiangwu. How could it withstand the recoil force of Daoliuli Mirror? I was careless. This was Wang Qingshan's last thought before he fell into a coma. In the mirror, the immortal palace. Zuyun didn't know what the situation was like outside. The precursor of Tu Cheng's self-explosion was too powerful. He believed that the self-explosion could destroy his formation from the inside out, but he didn't dare to guarantee whether the hundreds of people in the outside world were affected. Not to mention the two demon saints. If there were 3 or 5 people alive, he would be the first to be attacked by these cultivators. The best outcome would be to be captured alive by them. Damn it! Zuyun also swore a few words, which showed that he was in a very bad mood at the moment. Master, what's wrong with you? Xiao He seemed to sense that Zuyun was restless at the moment, so he flew out of the dragon transformation pool and landed in front of Zuyun, transforming into a 15 or 16-year-old boy. He was dressed in black and looked much more stable than the last time he transformed. This showed that he had been practicing in the immortal mansion. I'm really envious that he can improve his strength by soaking in the spring water. Zuyun thought to himself, but said, "It's nothing, I'm just thinking about how to deal with the external situation." Master, are you afraid that there will be people outside who are not good for you? Xiao He thought for a while and said. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Of course, yes, think about it, if I appear out of thin air, and I am only in the nascent soul stage, those in the God transformation stage, or there are demon saints, what do they think? Even Tu Cheng has guessed that I am carrying a treasure. Not to mention those human monks. These monks came here for the 188,000 spiritual stones, which shows that their bottom line is not high. If a treasure appears in front of them, it is conceivable that they will definitely take action. Then Master, why don't you just stay here and practice? With your strength, as long as you break through the God transformation stage, those in the outside world will definitely not be your opponent. You think I don't want to? Zuyun glanced at him and said, the stage of transformation into gods needs to trigger the heavenly tribulation. I am here, how can the heavenly tribulation be entered? That should be possible, right? Xiao He knew what Zuyun was worried about, but there was nothing he could do. At this time, Huang Longshu stepped forward and said, Hey Long, please tell the master that this is an immortal mansion and is not restricted by the heavenly ways of the lower world. As long as the master, if you continue to practice, your realm will naturally come naturally. Zuyun had not turned into a metal spirit and could not understand Huang Longshu's words, but Xiao He could, and he quickly told Zuyun. Old Shu, are you telling the truth? Zuyun was afraid that Xiao He's message would be inaccurate, so he quickly transformed and asked in person. Of course it's possible, but... But what? Zuyun said anxiously. It is true that the heavenly tribulation cannot be triggered, but the master can break through to the God transformation stage. This is also true. But without the heavenly tribulation, the physical body will be a little worse than the ordinary God transformation stage. Zuyun said happily, it would be great if I could break through. I don't have to fight with them hand to hand. Then the master can practice here until he reaches the stage of becoming a god before going out. Huang Longshu said with a smile. This couldn't be better. Zuyun returned to his human form. Heavenly calamity and other things were not important. What was important was that only when he reached a higher level could he be able to compete with the monks outside. Even if he is defeated, if he uses the power of chaos to teleport, these monks may not be able to catch up. Thinking of this, Zuyun quickly sat cross-legged on the edge of the void and began to absorb the power of chaos crazily. After being transformed by the chaos lotus, he slowly expanded his 9 veins. The body gradually changed, and so did chaos lotus. Zuyun poured his whole heart into it, and he knew the situation inside his body very well. As the chaos lotus petals opened to the extreme, Zuyun found that he could no longer store any more chaos power in his body. No matter how much he absorbed, his body would expel it. Just like a pool that is full, any extra drop will flow out. Zuyun knew that he had encountered a bottleneck. If it were in the outside world, this situation would definitely trigger a catastrophe. In addition to tempering the physical body, the heavenly tribulation will also transform the nascent soul in the body into a real spirit body. Therefore, the spirit transformation stage is divided into the spirit formation stage. To put it simply, in the distraction stage, after the soul leaves the body, it can still return to the body. When you are out of the body, you can also use your soul power to solidify your spirit body, and you can even use the same magical powers as your real body. But generally speaking, monks in the transformation stage will not easily let the distracted spirit leave the body, because the distracted spirit does not have the protection of the body, and the body that only relies on soul power to solidify will also be harmed by the spiritual fire. Compared with nascent soul, it can only last longer. On the contrary, being in the body will make the soul power stronger. Just like the injured Wang Qingshan. If you are an ordinary person, if your natal spiritual weapon is damaged, your life will be endangered if you are seriously injured. Even though he was in the stage of becoming a god, his soul power was extremely powerful. Even though some of it was destroyed, his original soul was not damaged. The reason why he fell into coma was because he was caught off guard, lacked preparation, and was shocked, so his body protected itself. Of course, injuries are also a fact. Although it looks serious, in fact, he will wake up after some time, and may heal himself, and there will be no impact in the end. It's nothing more than the loss of a spiritual weapon. This is an endless cycle. Spiritual power can no longer impact the 9 channels, and the chaos lotus will no longer change. How can I loosen the bottleneck? Zuyun looked at the lotus petals that had opened to the extreme. He had no idea what to do. He could only absorb and refine the chaos power over and over again, and then let the chaos power overflow from his body. And these chaotic forces did not return to the void, but filled the space of the immortal mansion, making the chaotic forces here gradually become more intense. Huanglongshu and other elixirs were the first to undergo changes. Originally, if they wanted to practice, they had to sit on the edge of the void and absorb the chaotic power in the void. But at this time, these chaotic forces were transformed by Zuyun, and they could safely absorb them in large quantities. Immediately, a group of elixirs gathered around Zuyun, taking big sips. Even their body shapes have undergone incredible changes. The Huanglong tree is the oldest, and its trunk was originally covered with dry bark. But at this time, nourished by Zuyun's chaotic power, it slowly regained its green color. If he were a human being, he could be described as rejuvenated. Looking at Xianxia, Xiancao, or Xueshen, they are like children who have grown up. Old tree, I think I can transform into a human in a short time. Xianxia said excitedly. Why is it so? Xiancao was puzzled. The same is true for Xueshen and other immortal medicines. Perhaps, the original chaos power is wild. These chaos powers have been transformed by the chaos lotus in the master's body. You know, chaos lotus is the top immortal medicine in the fairy world. We are here because of the master. Huang Longshu pondered for a moment and said so. Chaos Lotus. They had only heard from the immortal emperor that if there was Chaos Lotus here, they could transform faster. But the immortal emperor searched for it all his life and couldn't find it. It seems that it was really related to the Chaos Lotus. Zuyun didn't know that his repeated cycles had brought such changes to the immortal mansion. These immortal medicines did not completely devour the overflowing chaotic power. Some of them escaped and broke into the medicine garden, the sword mountain, and the dragon pool. The entire immortal palace was changing. Even the ranch was the same. Whether it was Sangu, Zhao Kamang, or Zushu and Muling Shengshan, they all found that the ranch was changing. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as earth-shaking. My realm is growing. Sangu said tremblingly. I seem to be breaking through to the Demon King realm. Zhao Kamang was also extremely excited. When he reached the Demon King realm, he could transform into a human. This was the reason why he recognized Zuyun as his master. This change must have been brought by Zuyun. Such pure spiritual power, Das Han, hurry up and absorb it. Zushu opened his eyes and muttered after a while. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 882. The outer world of heaven was shaken. Because the scattered cultivators brought the news of the demon dragon emperors coming out of the mountain to every corner of the outer world of heaven. But these cultivators tacitly concealed one thing at the same time, that is, Tu Chang. No one, including Jiangu, mentioned Tu Chang. Therefore, except for the forces that visited Jiangu, almost all forces believed that there was a strange treasure in the 8 desolate valley. The low-key forces of the demon dragon clan came out and sealed the mountain. It is conceivable how this strange treasure is. Especially those transcendent forces, combined with the recent major events that are about to happen in the outer world of heaven, they have to analyze this matter carefully. And all this has nothing to do with Zuyun. At this time, he repeatedly hit the bottleneck. But there was no effect. On the contrary, the immortal mansion benefited greatly from him. The chaotic power tempered by the Chaos Lotus constantly filled every corner of the immortal mansion. Of course, this is limited to the world that Zuyun merged. The most affected is the ranch. The 3 dogs benefited a lot, and all of them have changed to varying degrees. But their absorption is limited after all. The chaotic forces ultimately affect the ordinary plants that have been growing here. Nourished by such a huge amount of chaotic force, those plants, whether weeds or spiritual medicines, have also undergone earth-shaking changes. In short, the ranch is more like a paradise. When the chaotic force in the ranch is saturated, it will inevitably overflow from the space. That is the Dao glass mirror. However, there are not many chaotic forces that can travel through space. But despite this, it has also affected Wang Qingshan. His body was also nourished by the chaotic force and woke up. This magic weapon. Wang Qingshan was incredible, and was shocked when he felt the rapid recovery of the injuries in his body. It's not a defensive magic weapon, but a healing magic weapon. He couldn't see through the grate of the Dao glass mirror. Even though he was in his own cave, he subconsciously looked around nervously. No one. No one came when he was unconscious. He was extremely lucky that he was the leader of a small sect, and he was the only one in the entire sect who was in the spiritualization stage. No one knows about this treasure. A common man is innocent, but he is guilty of possessing a treasure. This magic weapon cannot be carried with him, but left here. Wang Qingshan made a decision immediately. But before that, he needed to use the overflowing pure spiritual power to repair his injuries as soon as possible. However, the gray-white color of this spiritual power looked somewhat similar to the chaotic power of the 5 Elements sect. Wang Qingshan was slightly suspicious, but since the gray-white spiritual power could be absorbed by the body autonomously, he did not think much about it and was completely immersed in his mind. An hour later, Wang Qingshan's injuries were healed. Except for the damage to his soul power, he was no longer in danger. This can only heal the injuries of the body. If you want to recover your soul, you have to get the corresponding elixir. Wang Qingshan stood up and left the cave. After adding a few more restrictions on the cave, he walked to the place where the sect stored the elixir. But before they had gone far, an elder came to report. "Master, there is news from the outer world." The great elder bowed and said, "Tell me." Wang Qingshan said immediately. A sect like theirs could be in danger of being destroyed at any time. They were struggling, so they naturally had to pay attention to all kinds of news. I heard that a rare treasure appeared in the 8 Desolate Valley. Now all the major transcendent forces have sent people there. I wonder what the master's intention is. 8 Desolate Valley. Wang Qingshan's face changed. Didn't he escape from the 8 Desolate Valley? There is a rare treasure? Could it be related to the mirror? Wang Qingshan immediately remembered that the Dao glass mirror was missing a corner, and he couldn't help thinking that if he could get back a part of the mirror. "Master, Master." The great elder thought that the master had some ideas, so he was so absent-minded, so he quickly woke him up. "Well, this sect master knows, you guys should do what you need to do. The transcendent forces have all gone, and we'll die if we go." Looking at the strongest person in the sect except himself, who was only in the late nascent soul stage, Wang Qingshan calmly decided not to go. The mirror is not missing too much, but it has such an effect, I should be content. If I take the mirror with me, if someone finds the fragments related to the mirror and makes a connection, wouldn't I give this treasure to others in vain? Be content, be content. Sect Master, don't you want to check the situation? The elder still didn't give up. Does this sect master need to explain to you? Wang Qingshan's expression turned cold. The elder was frightened and knelt down to confess his guilt. Practicing well is the right way. Go back. Wang Qingshan snorted coldly and continued to get the elixir, but he couldn't help it in his heart. 5 Elements Sect. Tu Cheng is dead. A cultivator in the refining void stage, holding a wooden sign that was broken into 2 pieces, was extremely angry. Tu Cheng was the deacon in charge of the entrance to the East Fan realm in the Savage Sea. Spiritual transformation stage. It takes almost 1,000 years for them to train a spiritual transformation stage cultivator from scratch. Practicing the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra is slow in the first place, and it is even slower in the presence of the Holy Land space. Not to mention, it will consume countless 5 spirit pills. But Tu Cheng died just like that. Elder Wuxu, could this be some kind of conspiracy? Next to him, a monk also said with a solemn expression. Elder Luosu, there are many people in the spirit world who are jealous of our 5 Elements sect, but there are only a few who dare to take action. The wild sea seems calm, but under the sea, there are existences that are even more terrifying than those in the outer world. If there is a fight, there is no guarantee that a powerful sea monster will not be attracted. Even if someone wants to plot against him, it is impossible in the wild sea. In that case, Elder Luosu thought deeply and said, then Tu Cheng left his post without permission and was killed outside the wild sea. Not necessarily, Elder Wuxu said, I brought Tu Cheng out with my own hands. I know his temperament. Although he is greedy, he is also law-abiding. If nothing happens, there is absolutely no way he can leave the wild sea. According to my opinion, something unexpected happened at the entrance to the Dongfan realm. Elder Luosu did not agree and said, no one has come up in the East Mortal realm for a long time. How could he kill Tu Cheng as soon as he came up? Our 5 Elements sect is indeed a scandal in the spiritual world, but it may not be the same in the East Mortal realm. Inside hatred. Elder Wuxu said solemnly, the East Mortal realm doesn't do that, but what about the people who go to the East Mortal Realm from the Spirit Realm? As far as I know, the Spirit World forces who have been to the East Mortal Realm, except for the sneaky ones in Sword Valley. In addition, there are several others. Among them, Lord Jinpeng. Elder Luosu frowned, as if searching for memories in his mind. After a while, he said, if I remember correctly, Elder Jinpeng went to the East Mortal Realm to help his Jinpeng get rid of his inner demons. He and our five elements Xianxia has no grudges, and even if he is unhappy, there is no need to kill Tu Cheng to become a god to vent his hatred. Wuxu looked helpless and said, so, this matter is somewhat difficult to confirm. Either send someone to the Wild Sea to have a look, or go to the Holy Land to ask the sect leader what should be done about this matter. The leader of the Five Elements sect was only in the transformation stage. Luosu was very disdainful and said, his realm is not as good as ours, and his age is not as good as ours, so what's the use of asking him? He couldn't find out the multiple infant stages of those who died before. Why? Now that Tu Cheng is dead, even if he goes to the Wild Sea, if someone really does it, he will probably die if he goes there. There is no way, he is the candidate appointed by the previous sect leader, and he has the final say in everything within the sect. Wuxu sighed and said, in fact, it stands to reason that people like us in the cultivation stage should practice well. If Tu Cheng were not my disciples, I would not come to you to discuss this matter. The Five Elements sect is famous, unless the other forces provoked us, otherwise I would not have come out of the retreat. The Five Elements sect is indeed very different from other sects. Like the Outer Heaven, or the Nine Netherlands, most monks focus on cultivation after breaking through the divine transformation stage. The main reason for this is that the state after the void refining stage is the fusion stage. The integration stage is about merging the distraction and the original soul into one. The biggest change is that your soul will become a soul. The difficulties in this are more difficult than any other realm. Especially for those who practice the five elements of Chaos Sutra, because of the cultivation of the five spiritual roots, the soul needs to go through five changes. There are four more difficulties than that of a monk with a single spiritual root, and it also takes 4 times more time. Although, as long as you practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra step by step, you can successfully break through. But the problem lies in longevity. The 5 elements of Chaos Sutra does not make monks who practice it any better than those who practice other techniques. In this way, they should try not to be disturbed by external matters as much as possible. How about I go with you? Luosu said, even if it is really the Lord Jinpeng in the Mahayana stage, if you and I join forces, plus the Lord Jinpeng has no Jinpeng, we can still escape alive even if we are defeated. Wuxu smiled slightly, that's exactly what I meant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 883. While Luosu and Wusu were rushing to the Savage Sea, the cultivators of Peepa Realm in the Eastern Mortal Realm were also preparing to try to enter it. But Lin Xiaoqi's strength was limited, and he could only bring one person at a time, and only once a month. The first person recommended was the Medicine King Valley Master, Hu Chang. He had no grudges against the Peepa Realm, and was also on good terms with the Demon Clan, so naturally he would not have any objections. The only flaw was that Hu Chang's combat power was not strong, and his lifelong cultivation was in medicine. But because of this, after arriving in the spirit realm, he could open up a path with medicine and avoid a crisis. Everyone, who will go first? Before leaving, Hu Chang clasped his fists and said goodbye to everyone. These people included the masters of Haoshan sect, Suanji sect, and Hualong sect. There were also some second-rate forces, and even the masters of third-rate forces. I wish Master Hu a smooth immortal path. Everyone shouted in unison. Before this, they had reached a consensus. Near the exit, they established a base in their mortal world, so that all the cultivators coming from the mortal world would not be in the dark. Hu Chong naturally agreed. This proposal was also approved by the demon clan. The 11 demon kings all said that after arriving in the spiritual world, they were willing to live in harmony with the human race and advance and retreat together. Everyone knew that all this was because of Zhu Yun. Under this circumstance, there was the first pioneer to the spiritual world in 100 years. Everyone, goodbye to the spiritual world. Hu Chong laughed and bowed to everyone, then followed Lin Xiaoqi to the center of the holy lake and plunged into it. Disperse, disperse, go back to where you should go. Niu Heng's voice was the loudest, and he shouted at the top of his voice. No hurry, no hurry. Big brother Yang was gentle and elegant, fanning a fan in his hand, and smiled. Everyone goes back, but you have to burn a few incense sticks for Zhu Xian. I hope he can bless us. The Zhu Xian he mentioned was naturally Zhu Yun. In their eyes, Zhu Yun saved the entire mortal world, just like an immortal descending to the earth. Yes, it's time to burn incense to Zhu Xian. We should hope that Zhu Xian has a firm foothold in the spiritual world, and then he can take care of us old acquaintances. What a coincidence, I thought so too. Everyone laughed and left, and ran back to their respective sections. They really brought all the disciples in the sect to burn incense to Zhu Yun's statue in turn, and they said almost the same words. When those with higher realms finished, it was the turn of those with lower realms. They also burned incense in turn according to their level. The lower the realm, the more pious they were in their hearts. The news they heard about Zhu Xian made them all yearn for it, and they hoped that one day they could reach the height of Zhu Yun. As these cultivators burned incense one by one, an inexplicable and invisible force slowly condensed in each statue, and when it condensed to a certain degree, it rose from the top of the statue. After flying to a certain height, these forces all flew towards the direction of the savage sea. Like rivers rolling together, this force passed through the sky beyond the 9 clouds, and in the endless sky above the savage sea, it passed through a transparent barrier and reached the spirit world. In the entire mortal world, no one could see the existence of this force. But when it arrived in the spirit world, it quickly caused a shock in the sea. That's right, it was in the sea. Wuxu and Luoxu had just arrived in the sea not long ago and were guarding the entrance to the eastern mortal world. They just discovered that there was a huge change in the sea, and countless demonic powers emerged from under the seabed. Not good. There are sea monsters who have lived in the deep sea for a long time. The monsters in the sea are very different from the demon cultivators in the outer world. The demon cultivators in the outer world will have 2 choices after they have cultivated from the demon king realm to the demon saint realm. One is to use the heavenly tribulation to destroy the demon beast's body and practice with a human body. The other is to use the heavenly tribulation to temper the demon saint, continue to practice with the demon body, and maintain it until the demon saint realm reaches the peak, and then face the heavenly tribulation. After bearing the last immortal tribulation, they can break the tribulation and ascend. And the sea monsters have only one choice. They hid their demon power under the cover of the endless deep sea, and could not be discovered by the heavenly way. And even if they were discovered, the heavenly tribulation could not do anything to them. The heavenly tribulation cannot be too strong. Because it is too strong, it may destroy the spiritual world, which is not the purpose of the heavenly way. Therefore, the stronger the sea monsters are, the deeper they will dive into the sea. Until they can practice to withstand the last heavenly tribulation, they will come out of the deep sea to survive the tribulation. Right now, it is that huge invisible force that has attracted the sea monsters who have lived in the wild sea for a long time. The bigger the body of the sea monster, the stronger their strength. One after another, the demonic energy that could almost crush Luoxu and Wusu, 2 cultivators in the nascent soul stage, appeared one after another, making the 2 extremely frightened, and also raised countless water columns. The sky is going to collapse. Luo Su trembled all over, and teleported towards the coast like crazy, and Wu Su was even more so. Quick, run. These demonic powers were not aimed at them, but the power emitted by the aftermath alone made them feel desperate. The sea area is the most dangerous place. How dare they stay when there is such a change at this time? There is no need to sacrifice their immortal path for a dead Tu Chang. Both of them had the same idea, and the chaotic power in their bodies surged out crazily. Boom! 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 Countless water pillars are connected into one piece. The sea and sky are the same color. Luo Su and Wu Xu occasionally looked back. The sea is the sky and the sky is the sea. They have long been indistinguishable from each other. They could even see in the rising sea water, silhouettes of black figures comparable to mountains and mountains, swimming toward the sky through the water. They didn't dare to look anymore, and all their minds were focused on escaping. I don't know if this strange sign is a good sign or a bad sign. Perhaps, only those ancestors who have gone through the tribulation period can know something about it, right? The commotion on the sea gradually became louder and gradually spread to the spiritual continent. Some cities along the coast suffered huge tsunamis for no reason. But fortunately, the sea monster tide was not targeted, and it was very far away. Although the tsunami it caused was huge, its power was reduced a lot. The high-level monks still had the energy to rescue some minor cultivators, with some injuries but no deaths. But unwarranted visions will naturally attract people's attention. Rumors began to spread. The water column soaring into the sky lasted for an hour. These sea monsters found nothing and eventually fell into the sea. The water that was stirred up suddenly lost control and fell suddenly, causing another wave and rushing towards the coast. But with lessons learned from the past, the seaside cities were already on guard, and there was no major loss. All of these are the inexplicable powers from the East Mortal realm. These powers passed through the wild sea and flew to the outer world. What a terrifying power! This power is not spiritual power, but it is a level higher than spiritual power. Immortal power. For a moment, on the periphery of Tianweishan, some powerful monks who had retreated from the world and hit the realm all woke up with shock on their faces. They have long transcended any influence and are alone, just for cultivation. When the time is right, they will trigger the immortal tribulation and ascend. Or, if you are destined to be immortal and catch up with the birth of the immortal platform, you can also reach the immortal world and achieve immortality. As this power penetrates deep into the outer world, more and more powers wake up. The two elders of the Five Elements sect, Wuxu and Luoxu, also rushed back in a hurry and went straight to the forbidden area within the sect. All the tribulation periods of the Five Elements sect are included in it. Reporting, a strange phenomenon in the sea, countless giant monsters are flying into the sky with sea water. The Five Elements sect was immediately shaken. More than a dozen people in the tribulation stage suddenly opened their eyes, revealing the light. Wild sea. Is it possible that the immortal platform was born in advance, so these sea monsters also want to step into it? How could Xianxia appear in the sea? How can we explain that the sea monster came out of the deep sea and flew into the sky? No matter what, we need to find out the cause of this vision. More than 10 of the strongest members of the Five Elements sect flew together to the wild sea. And they have no idea that the final destination of this power is the King Mu sect. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 884. Hey, is it going to rain? Wang Qingshan, who had just taken the elixir, suddenly felt uneasy and subconsciously raised his head. He looked at the sky and found that at some point, the clouds and mist between the peaks had turned gloomy. It's not that it doesn't rain outside, but mostly drizzle. These rains carry strong spiritual power and moisten the mountain vegetation. Many elixirs seem to come suddenly like a spring breeze overnight, causing thousands of pear trees to bloom. So rain is not a bad thing. But the weather at this time gave Wang Qingshan an ominous premonition. Just in time to get the medicine, it's better to go back to the cave to heal. He is no more than an ordinary monk in Tianweishan, but he has some abilities to become the leader of a section. The cave has mysteries and natural formations. The aura inside cannot spread, and it is impossible for outsiders to discover it. Otherwise, he would not just throw the Dewu glazed mirror in it without any worries. I was born with a strange phenomenon, either a strange treasure or a bad omen. Could it be that the demon dragon king caused something in the Bawang Valley? On the way back, Wang Qingshan couldn't help but have random thoughts in his mind. Sword Valley. Sect Master Feng looked up at the sky and pondered, there is a vision, could it be that someone was born on the immortal platform? The purpose of refining the wind dragon swords is to ascend to the immortal platform. It is said that as long as you step onto the platform of ascension to immortality, you can immediately ascend to the immortal realm regardless of your realm. And recently, the big event in Tianweishan is this matter. Otherwise, how difficult would it be for a monk like him, whose main practice is to refine spiritual swords, to reach the stage of transcending tribulation? Not to mention, whether there will be other forces to suppress it. And this rumor came to him accidentally. Because the location of the immortal platform is said to be known only to transcendental forces. Every time Xianxia is born, only one person can win this honor. Naturally, the fewer people who know about it, the smaller the competition will be. Master Feng's reliance is his twin wind dragon swords. Master, could it be something related to Bawang Valley? Beside him, a person whispered. Not necessarily, Master Feng said, Bawang Valley, from what I can see, it is most likely that the demon dragon emperor deliberately concealed his actions. If there is a rare treasure, just rely on him, a demon cultivator from the eastern mortal realm, to seal the valley. Can it work? It is true that his strength is comparable to that of Mahayana, but so what? That sect leader, this vision. I don't know, Master Feng shook his head and said, let's take a look. Maybe it's just a heavy rain. It's not like there haven't been heavy rains in the sky. After that, he turned around and left, with the target being, his sword-making room. Feng and he, how is the sword refining going? Although the possibility of ascending to Sendai is very small. But the news that was finally obtained, Sect Master Feng would rather believe that it exists than believe that it does not exist. Xianxia appears once every 1,000 years. This year is the millennium. If there were 2 wind dragon swords, he would dare to go there and take a chance. I have been preparing for nearly 10,000 years, just waiting for now. Master, I've refined the sword body, but I can't refine the soul into the sword. Feng and he said with a sad face. Master Feng released his spiritual consciousness into the furnace and found that Sun Qiniang's body had indeed been refined into a sword embryo, but her soul remained inside and never came out. If you directly fuse the sword body into the completed true dragon wind sword, you will not be able to make the wind dragon double swords. The wind dragon dual swords are 2 swords with 1 soul. The original sword body was refined by the Feng sect master. Subsequently, you only need to refine the sword body and put Sun Qiniang's soul into the original sword spirit. So the soul sword needs to be separated. Otherwise, the original true dragon wind sword will be damaged. Waste. Master Feng's face suddenly darkened, and he slapped Feng and he seriously in the air. Family, owner. Feng and he's heart was full of bitterness. He had actually seen the face of the family head clearly. But there is no other way. In order to survive for the time being, we can only linger. If he doesn't practice, he will die. If you practice, you may still have a chance of survival. Moreover, during the refining process, while he was concentrating on it, he was also thinking about ways to escape all the time. Trash, you can't even refine a sword body at the pill formation stage. If you hadn't found this sword body, my family master would have killed you. It has delayed my family master's grand plan. Do you still want to live well? Master, forgive me. Feng Anhe got up with difficulty, then knelt down and said. Humph, Sect Master Feng said coldly, because you are also wholeheartedly refining swords, I will let you go for the time being. Take this elixir first, and then refine it properly. I will give you 12 at most. Time, if there is no progress, don't blame me for being rude. Having said that, he threw away a pill, and just by smelling its fragrance, one could tell that this medicine was extremely extraordinary. Feng Anhe was not polite and quickly swallowed it, and the pain all over his body immediately subsided. Immediately, he took a breath and bravely said, May I ask the master of the house if there is any news about the young Taoist monk? You haven't perfected your sword yet, how dare you ask about the head of my family? Sect Master Feng's face suddenly darkened, and he said sternly, Concentrate on refining your sword, and think about your own future. After saying that, he left without looking back. The true Dragon Wind sword has been completed, and it is not a big deal to just integrate the sword body. Under normal circumstances, let alone Feng Anhe at the nascent soul stage, even anyone from the Sword Valley Feng family can complete this task at any Dan formation stage. It just takes a little longer. But Sect Master Feng didn't think about how to arrange Feng Anhe, so he took advantage of the situation and let him refine the sword. As for going to Juyulan to find Nangong Ting Feng, he didn't take it to heart at all. Unless you, Feng Anhe, can make a great contribution to our Feng family, how can I, the head of the family, let you serve as a member of your branch? There is no distinction between superiority and inferiority. Master Feng left. The two swords of the Wind Dragon are urgent, but the emergence of the immortal platform will not end in a day or two. He knew he couldn't be in a hurry, so he simply decided to go find out the news before talking. After a long time, the medicine dissipated, and Feng Anhe's injuries recovered to some extent. Underneath his sloppy appearance, his eyes revealed a glimmer of hatred. You lied to me. He roared in his heart, pinched and punched, wishing he could gather all his spiritual power and smash the stove. But he knew that if this was the case, he would definitely die. At the same time, it is very possible that Nangong Ting Feng will be angered by the family leader, and then send people to kill Juyuland. Feng Anhe is not afraid of death. But he was afraid that Nangong Ting Feng and Feng Qingyang would die and end his lineage of queens. What the Feng family is, you don't regard our branches as clan members at all. That's right, why was I so stupid? I shouldn't have taken out the sword then. Sword body. Thinking of the sword body, Feng Anhe's eyes suddenly shone with light, and he looked at the stove again. Don't you want the twin swords of the Wind Dragon? Hey, I can't refine the twin swords of the Wind Dragon, but I can steal them. Feng Anhe had long since lost his natal magical weapon, so there was just a vacancy. He didn't dare to attack the true Dragon Wind sword, but he could attack the sword embryo. Sun Qinyang is now completely in the shape of a sword, like a dead thing. He only needs to drop some blood essence to refine the sword embryo into his own spiritual sword. Although it was only a semi-finished product, Feng Anhe knew that because it was refined by himself, and the refining process mainly focused on the wind attribute, it was very consistent with his technique. I stole your true Dragon Wind sword, and then used the sword to sneak away. If you catch me, the worst is possible. A bold plan appeared in Feng Anhe's mind. He quietly opened the door of the sword refining room and found that the sky outside was filled with dark clouds and the sky was getting dark. The wind was howling and the clouds were low. Not to mention killing people, there is absolutely no problem with cheating. Let's get started. Feng Anhe's mind moved, and the sword embryo flew out of the furnace. Feng Anhe bit his fingertip and condensed a drop of blood on it. Before he could take a breath, he was connected to the sword body mentally. Without thinking too much, He quickly recited a mantra. From the furnace, a blue-gray sword shaped like a dragon and covered with dragon scale patterns flew out and fell into Feng Anhe's hands. What a sword, what a peerless sword! Feng Anhe couldn't help but praise and quickly put away the true dragon wind sword. Then, he slapped his chest. Puff! Essence and blood spurted out, all falling on his newly refined sword embryo. Walk! Feng Anhe did not wipe the corners of his mouth, but his figure and the sword embryo merged into the wind, passed through the clouds, and disappeared into the sword valley. Huh! Sect leader Feng suddenly felt something was wrong in his heart, but at this moment, there was a loud sound in the sky. Boom! Very far away, a hole was suddenly torn open in the clouds, and thousands of feet of light shone down. Master Feng's attention was immediately attracted. This is very similar to the scene when Xianxia was born. And that direction. It seems to be that King Mu sect. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 885. The nameless King Mu mountain suddenly attracted the attention of almost the entire Tianyi. If it were normal, it would not be like this. After all, Tianyi is vast. Even if the movement is big, some powerful people will think it is too far away and may not come over for fear of wasting time. But because of the 8 Wasteland Valley, many powerful people came early. At this time, the sky changed drastically, and the inexplicable power fell from the sky, piercing through the clouds, like the sun that suddenly appeared after a thunderstorm, scattering thousands of golden lights. From a distance, King Mu Peak seemed to be a place of miracles, and the light reflected the lingering clouds, as if a passage appeared out of thin air between the fairyland and the lower world. At this moment, everyone who saw it with their own eyes had this idea and wanted to find out. The legend of the Ascension platform has a long history. But except for the powerful people or forces who really mastered the rules, they all thought that it appeared irregularly. In fact, the Ascension platform appears every 1,000 years. Every 1,000 years, there will be one person who avoids the immortal calamity and ascends to the immortal world through the Ascension platform. This is the true blessing of the heaven beyond heaven. Immortal fate is coming. The cultivators who didn't know why were all excited, and flew towards King Mu sect like crazy. But there are still some people who are alert and still have certain ideas in their hearts. Most of them know that the time for the Ascension platform to be born has not yet come. It can be seen that there are many people going there, and they can't hold back, and they also rush to King Mu sect one after another. Wang Qingshan didn't know what happened in the heaven beyond heaven. At this time, he was in his cave. This cave was protected by a natural formation, and the uproar in the outside world did not attract his attention. In fact, he didn't hear the movement. Moreover, because of Zuyun, this cave was already filled with extremely pure spiritual power. Wang Qingshan sat cross-legged greedily, madly absorbing the spiritual power that continued to flow out from the Dao glass mirror. He felt that it would not be long before he would break through to the void refining stage. He had never absorbed and refined such pure spiritual power in his life. Unfortunately, everything came to an abrupt end. This inexplicable power coming from the Eastern Fan realm could not be completely blocked by the natural formation of the heavenly world. A gap was created in the formation, and the power rushed into it frantically, and finally, all rushed to the Daoliyuli mirror. In an instant, the spiritual power in the cave followed the gap created by the inexplicable power and rushed to the outside of the cave and to the inside of the King Mu sect. This is the Yuanying stage of the King Mu sect was shocked at first, and then went crazy. Before they made any move, the spiritual power automatically flowed into their bodies and began to temper around the Yuanying. Spiritual power that can be cultivated automatically? Unheard of. They didn't understand why, but they could feel the benefits of this spiritual power. For a while, the cultivators in the Yuanying stage felt that their bottlenecks were loosened. The late nascent soul cultivators sensed the coming of the heavenly tribulation. They were facing a formidable enemy, frantically practicing their own skills, trying to absorb as much spiritual power as possible when the heavenly tribulation came, so as to have enough strength to deal with the heavenly tribulation. King Mu's sect became lively. Because it was not only the nascent soul stage. The strength of the Jindan stage and even the foundation establishment stage was greatly enhanced. All this was because of Zuyun, but no one knew about it. When some cultivators arrived here first and found that there were many late nascent soul cultivators in the King Mu sect who were about to trigger the heavenly tribulation, their faces suddenly changed. They did not dare to move forward. Because once the heavenly tribulation came, if you were too close, the heavenly tribulation would think that you were provoking the heavenly Deo, and you would suffer the same tribulation thunder as the person who was undergoing the tribulation. This tribulation thunder only had the power of destruction and nothing else. Even if you survived, you would suffer a blow in vain. Gradually, the King Mu sect was surrounded by cultivators. Not only ordinary cultivators, but also those powerful predecessors. They felt the pure spiritual power with great surprise, and could not figure out the key. They knew that there was no way to see the ascension platform here. But these spiritual powers that could arouse their souls and were ready to move seemed not so simple. But because there were too many people around, they chose to wait and see for the time being. At this time, in the immortal mansion, boom! The inexplicable power that had entered the Daoliuli mirror actually appeared at the top of the void in the immortal mansion. Without anyone noticing, this power turned into a golden lightning and blasted down at Zuyun, who was sitting cross-legged. Boom! 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 For a moment, the small open space in the immortal mansion exploded. Dust flew, and gravel splashed. Even the aftermath of the golden thunder attacked the medicine garden, causing a group of immortal medicines to be blown away. Sword Mountain. The mountain road collapsed, the sword energy was disordered, the sword pool rolled, and countless sword forces were also affected and annihilated on the spot. At the top, the Chaos Sword actually felt fear. The indestructible sword body made of immortal materials began to tremble constantly, and made a muffled sword sound, as if it was trying to save someone. The aftermath continued, passing over the Chaos Sword and rushing towards the dragon pond behind the mountain. Woo! Like the sound of the wind. Xiaohei in the dragon pond was awakened, thinking that there was an enemy attacking this world, and the real dragon body suddenly jumped out from the bottom of the pool. But in an instant, the aftermath from the top of the sword mountain knocked him back into the dragon pond. Splash! Water splashed everywhere, and Xiaohei was motionless, obviously he had fainted. Zuyun did not see this sudden scene, but because of his connection with Daoliuli mirror, it was clearly presented in his mind. Why is this happening? What kind of power is this, and it is so powerful? The immortal medicine is defeated, the sword mountain cracked, and Xiaohei was unconscious, not to mention the immortal medicines that were hit in person. Could it be that the immortal emperor is here? Zuyun's mood was like a raging sea, and he wanted to open his eyes to see. But it was of no use at all. The golden thunder slammed on his head, and Zuyun was miraculously not injured, but he couldn't use any strength. What on earth is going on? Just when the aftermath of the entire immortal mansion dissipated and suddenly returned to calm, the sky exploded again. Boom! Without waiting for Zuyun to react, the golden thunder fell again, all of which sank into Zuyun's crown, reaching the purple palace and facing Zuyun's soul. No feeling. No pain, no itching, and no discomfort. Zuyun wanted to open his eyes and see with his own eyes what kind of magical power this golden thunder was. But he found that he couldn't open his eyes. The body could feel the power, but couldn't use it. The eyelids were not as heavy as 1,000 pounds, but he couldn't lift them up. What's going on? What's going on? Am I dreaming? Zuyun couldn't help but roar. But there was no sound coming out of his mouth. The roar only echoed in his mind. What happened? Zuyun was a little panicked. But the golden thunder didn't care about Zuyun's thoughts at all. The third golden thunder came. Boom. The fourth. Boom. The fifth. The sixth. Until the ninth. Zuyun finally reacted. This is his heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation from the nascent soul stage to the spiritualization stage. But he did not make any preparations. He came back to his senses in fear, and suddenly his mind turned to the position of Danshan in his lower abdomen. At some point, the petals of the chaos lotus disappeared. And what fell into his eyes was a lotus pod. The lotus pod was crisp and tender, and there were faint small round holes on the surface. In the round hole, there was a faint golden light, which was exactly the same color as the golden thunder that bombarded him. Zuyun knew that this was the lotus heart, which is usually called the lotus seed. He forced himself to be calm and counted carefully, exactly 24. Could it be that the power of the golden thunder was absorbed by the chaos lotus, so his body was not hurt at all? Moreover, the chaos lotus was fighting against the golden thunder, so he could not use the power of chaos. Zuyun could only guess so. At this time, the golden light suddenly converged, and the chaos lotus pod became exactly the same as an ordinary lotus pod. Zuyun also collected his mind, felt it carefully, and was immediately extremely excited. He found that the chaos power that his body could store was 24 times more than before. In other words, each lotus heart is equivalent to one of his Danshan. This is too incredible. He was so overjoyed that he didn't even notice that he could open his eyes. When he reacted, he recalled the immortal mansion. It was a mess. So, where did this golden thunder tribulation come from? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 886. Zuyun naturally couldn't figure it out, but he had always been open-minded. Since he couldn't figure it out and didn't feel any discomfort in his body, he naturally wouldn't care too much. Let everything take its course. I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it. I just don't know, can I control these 24 lotus hearts separately? If so, it's not as simple as increasing the spiritual power by 24 times. At least, my chaos palm can be used come out 24 times. This is what he cares about. Among the techniques learned from the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, the only one that can be used to directly fight the enemy is the chaos palm. By the way, I didn't know whether the changes in my practice were good or bad before, so I didn't turn to the next page to see the techniques at the nascent soul stage. Now that I have broken through the transformation stage, I just want to look at these 2 techniques. Maybe it will be useful. Zuyun was overjoyed, but then he muttered to himself, no, as soon as we break through the divine transformation stage, we must first let the chaos power be full. The original chaos lotus needed chaos power, but now the chaos lotus is blooming and bearing fruit, it looks like it's even more needed. Zuyun calmed down, suppressed his desire to see the exercises, sat down on the edge of the void, and began to use the chi refining method crazily. In the void, those chaotic forces seemed to have encountered a huge whirlpool, and poured into Zuyun's body through the void. 5 Elements Sect, Holy Land. The leader of the 5 Elements sect was stunned and murmured to himself. Is there anyone in this world who has transcended the tribulation and broken through to the stage of becoming a god? No, the tribulation thunder in the divine transformation stage is purple, but through the clouds and mist, it was clearly golden tribulation thunder. How is this possible? The speed of time in this holy land is different from that in the outside world, so it will definitely not be affected by the way of heaven. So why does it trigger a catastrophe? No, I have to ask my master about this matter. Maybe he can find out the clues from it. The leader of the Five Elements sect was restless and couldn't calm down at all, so he finally decided to ask someone. He no longer paid attention to the situation inside the Holy Land, but came out and rushed to the back mountain. But he didn't know that after he left, the chaotic power in the void was stirred by Zuyun, and the two spaces that were far apart actually reached the level where they could be seen visually. Although there are chaotic forces all around that are constantly filling the gaps, they can't keep up with Zuyun's absorption and refining speed. It's a good thing that Zuyun couldn't see the whole picture of the Holy Land of Five Elements sect at this time, otherwise he would definitely find a way to find out. The leader of the Five Elements sect was stopped by two late-stage gods guarding the back mountain. I can't go in. The sect leader laughed angrily. Sect master, please be considerate, my ancestor is meeting some elders. The disciples guarding the back mountain did not give the sect master any face. Because not only are their realm strength not weaker than that of the sect master, they are also of the same generation. The sect leader was helpless because he had already said it was about the Holy Land, but these two people didn't give him any face at all. Which elders are meeting the ancestor? There is nothing to hide. One of them said, it's Elder Luoxu and Elder Wuxu. They just came back from the Wild Sea and said they encountered a strange phenomenon and need to inform the ancestors. The sect master was disdainful in his heart, but he did not dare to show it on his face. He could only follow their words and continue to ask, the Wild Sea has its own faction, and most of the strange phenomena are normal things. Are the two elders making too much fuss? Another person couldn't help laughing and said, the words of the sect master are wrong. Even if the two elders are at the bottom of the back mountain, they are not something that we in the God transformation stage can criticize. It is true that the sea area is its own sect, but if the two elders in the sea area are, has the change affected our spiritual continent? Isn't this possible? The sect leader obviously didn't believe it. Although there were occasional storms at sea, there were no waves at all once we reached land. There are many monks in the spiritual world, and there are even fewer mortals. Because the spiritual energy is so rich, even a mortal with less talent can at least become a monk in the chi refining stage by spending some time. If the opportunity were better, it would not be a surprise to reach the foundation building stage. A mere storm at sea will not affect the land at all. Sect master, many cities and markets along the coast where scattered people gathered have been destroyed by wind and waves. If you don't believe it, just go back to the sect and ask someone casually and you will know. He didn't bother to explain. And he didn't even know that the sect master had been guarding the Holy Land these days. That is, in the fragments of the Dewu glazed mirror. Is this really happening? The sect leader pretended to be surprised. Of course, he couldn't inquire. No matter how many people died in the spiritual world, it had nothing to do with him. He only cares about the development of Five Elements sect. Because only if he develops well can he have the opportunity to step down as the sect leader and concentrate on his cultivation. That's why I focus on the Holy Land space. As for the strange phenomenon in the sea, he didn't care at all. No matter how many people died, as long as they were not from the Five Elements sect, he would ignore it, let alone inquire about the news. It's true. At that time, the two elders encountered this incident as soon as they arrived in the Wild Sea. It is said that they saw countless huge deep-sea monsters leaping out of the sea, and they were so frightened that they came back in a hurry. The sect master planned to stay here until he could enter the back mountain. Since he was idle anyway, he simply continued to ask, if the two elders don't stay in the back mountain, what are they going to do in the sea? Sect master, don't you know yet? Tu Cheng is dead. Upon hearing the news, the sect leader suddenly exclaimed, what? Tu Cheng is dead. Painted as being sent by him to the entrance to the east mortal realm of the sea. Although it had nothing to do with him directly, as the sect master, he had to bear some responsibility for the death of a spiritualization stage cultivator. Yes, Tu Cheng died, so Elder Wuxu asked Elder Luoxu to find out the truth, but he didn't expect that the strange phenomenon would appear as soon as he arrived at the entrance of the Eastern Fan realm. In other words, the two elders also failed to find out the cause and effect of Tu Cheng's death. The Five Elements sect master understood. No wonder he was stopped from entering, because there were more important things inside. It seems that this strange phenomenon is not simple. King Mu sect. The inexplicable power that fell from the sky disappeared, and the light was gone. And the pure spiritual power that flowed out from the interior of King Mu sect also disappeared almost at the same time. Everyone's cultivation suddenly stopped. But the heavenly tribulation caused by several Yuanying stage cultivators did not stop. Because the inexplicable power came from the Eastern Fan realm. And the heavenly tribulation is related to the way of heaven. Boom. 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 Several calamity clouds also appeared at the same time as if they had made an appointment. As if they were connected as one, but they did not interfere with each other. In the cave, Wang Qingshan was stuck at the bottleneck of breaking through the void refining stage. Without the support of Zhu Yun's refined chaos force, he naturally could not continue. He retreated and withdrew his mind. Such pure spiritual power, I can't break through even if I absorb it all. It seems, I have to find a bigger place to let this magic weapon release enough spiritual power, and then find a chance to break through. Wang Qingshan was the most confused person among all the people. He thought that the disappearance of spiritual power here was because he had used it up. It can be regarded as touching the barrier of the void refining stage. I didn't expect that I, Wang Qingshan, would have this day. Wang Qingshan was in a good mood, so he planned to go out to see his disciples to urge them to practice. After all, he was about to reach the void refining stage, and he could never accept that the backbone of the sect was only in the nascent soul stage. But when he walked out of the formation in the cave, he was stunned instantly. In the sky, there was a huge calamity cloud, bombarding their King Mu peak one after another without any pattern. What he couldn't understand was why there were countless cultivators watching on the hillside of King Mu peak. Are they here to see the heavenly tribulation? But what's so good about the heavenly tribulation? Wang Qingshan could feel that there were few cultivators on the hillside who were weaker than him, that is to say, all these people had experienced the heavenly tribulation. So he wondered why they were here. Could it be because many people were going through the tribulation at one time? But this is not a rare thing. Even he had heard that the transcendent forces in the outer world could have 10 Yuanying late-stage cultivators going through the heavenly tribulation at one time. But how could such a thing happen in their King Mu sect? Wang Qingshan was a little dumbfounded, and didn't dare to ask. Because once you enter the range of the heavenly tribulation, it is completely a matter of harming others and not benefiting yourself. So, he could only stand on a high place and let the thunder continue to ravage his eardrums. As the calamity was about to end, Zhu Yun's cultivation was almost over. In the immortal palace, he slowly opened his eyes, and there was an indescribable feeling of comfort all over his body. It's time to see what kind of skills the Five Elements Chaos Sutra will give me. Zhu Yun stood up and walked into the cave. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 887. Five Elements Fist. In the nascent soul stage, you are the top being in the mortal world. At this time, there is no need to act cautiously. Even if the monks above the nascent soul come to the mortal world, they will be restricted by the way of heaven. Five Elements boxing is the most suitable time to practice. There are a total of 24 ways of Five Elements boxing, corresponding to the 24 constellations. The punches are strong. The Five Elements fist is very different from the Chaos Palm and Thunder Escape technique that appeared previously. It can be said that the first two exercises only have one move. In just a few sentences, the key points of the exercises and the methods of practice can be clearly explained. But 5 elements boxing is different. And after reaching the nascent soul stage, the soul has also been trained accordingly. This is a technique taught directly through the soul. As Zuyun whispered the 3 words 5 elements fist, this technique suddenly appeared in Zuyun's mind. Just like the Wuji sword technique taught in the Jade Slips, a figure appeared in Zuyun's mind. However, these are 24 people. Everyone has different punching postures, like a dream, looming. The stronger the soul, the faster it can learn. But now, Zuyun is in the stage of becoming a god. After being baptized by the Golden Thunder Tribulation, the soul appears in his body. Learning this 5 elements boxing is a piece of cake. The purpose of the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is to pursue the word hung. Zuyun has already mastered the key. He only needs to learn the boxing moves and he has memorized everything. That's good. It just so happens that I lack long-lasting skills. I will encounter more and more powerful people in the spiritual world in the future. There is no guarantee that no one will recognize the Chaos Sword as an immortal sword. And although the Chaos Palm is powerful, there are problems, but it's often out of control. Zuyun was very satisfied, but he just thought, this is another number 24, does it correspond to it? 24 ways of boxing, 24 lotus hearts. Let it go first, and then look at the subsequent exercises. Zuyun turned over a page of the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. 5 elements incarnation technique. Up to this point in my practice, the soul has appeared in my body. Before the soul and soul were completely integrated, I created a new method to separate the chaos force again, dividing it into 5, each becoming an incarnation, but this method is extremely difficult to practice. Difficult, you need to collect 5 spirit beads. Seeing this, Zuyun subconsciously touched his penis. He didn't know if the spirit beads mentioned in the technique were the spirit beads on his body. He has 4. But what is the magic use of this technique? Zuyun then looked down, and then his breathing became rapid. The cultivation method is as follows: collect 5 spirit beads and condense them into the 5 internal organs. Divide the soul into 5 according to its attributes. With the spirit beads as the body and the soul as the soul, 5 incarnations are formed. The wonderful use of this method is that the 5 incarnations can be cultivated at the same time, and they can be reintegrated when needed. The 5 spiritual powers can be condensed and balanced again, and the realm can be directly improved. The disadvantage of the slow speed of cultivation of the 5 spiritual roots, it was completely resolved. But I still need to emphasize. This can only be done by gathering all 5 spirit beads, and when merging, remember the word wait. Zuyun's breathing almost stopped. The immortal said it very straightforwardly. He understood the wonderful use of the 5 elements incarnation technique very well. Incarnation is second, and the most important thing is cultivation. The 5 incarnations rely on the 5 series of spiritual beads to cultivate the spiritual power of a single series. After practicing to the extreme and merging, you will definitely be able to break through the current realm. After the breakthrough, he will be divided into 5 incarnations and continue to practice. In addition, he has the Dao glazed mirror with him, so the speed of his cultivation will be increased by many times. Golden Lingzhu, we must find the Golden Lingzhu. Zuyun took a deep breath and set himself his first real goal in the spirit world. Thinking about how miserable I was being forced to do by a Tu Cheng in the transformation stage, let alone the possibility of meeting someone stronger in the future. And, a powerful monk in the 5 elements sect who practices the same technique as himself. Call. Zuyunking exhaled a breath of turbid air and calmed down his mood. Putting the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra on the stone bookshelf, Zuyun turned his hand and reached for the jade slip. He is now even more certain that the higher the realm, the more information he will know about Diwu glazed mirror. As his hand touched the jade slip, a green light rushed into Zuyun's mind without any accident. Mortal. Suddenly, Zuyun heard a very majestic, but slightly contemptuous voice. Mortal. Zuyun frowned. That's right, I'm talking about you, mortal. The voice sounded again. Zuyun couldn't help but feel angry. I'm obviously a monk in the transformation stage. Even if you call me an ant, I won't do that. You are better than ants. Ants are creatures that don't know how to cultivate immortality. That voice seemed to know what Zuyun was thinking. You actually. Zuyun was shocked, but what he could see at this time was that he was in a green light and couldn't see anything at all. It's not surprising that I can know what you are thinking, because you are immortal and I am a weapon immortal. Immortal. Zuyun heard this word for the first time. The spirit in the spiritual weapon is the weapon spirit. The spirit in the immortal weapon is the immortal. Therefore, I am the weapon immortal. Zuyun took a breath of cold air and said in shock, are you the immortal of Diwu Glazed Mirror? No, I'm not, the immortal said calmly, I am the immortal of the universe glazed mirror. Cosmic glazed mirror, Zuyun was stunned, but his intuition told him that they should be talking about the same thing. That's right, the cosmic glazed mirror. The universe is time, and the universe is space. This cosmic glazed mirror is damaged, and only the difference in time flow rate is left, so it naturally becomes the great universe glazed mirror. Then, is there a Dazu glazed mirror? Zuyun asked. I don't know, the universe glazed mirror was broken into many pieces, and I don't know how many fragments there are. But in the lower realm, the fragments of the universe glazed mirror cannot exist. Zuyun actually felt a little regretful in his heart, and asked in confusion, why? The lower realm is a small place, not worthy of being mentioned as a space. No matter how bad the great universe glass mirror is, it is impossible to come to the lower realm. Because the lower realm cannot even withstand the power naturally contained in the materials used to build the great universe. Then you, call yourself the immortal of artifacts, why did you come down with the Diwu glazed mirror? I didn't come down. Xianxia said lightly, it's just that suddenly there was a touch of magical power that passed through the world, making me feel that the fragments of the Diwu glazed mirror are the largest ones on your side. If I guessed correctly, you have been collecting them for a long time. Time. Yes. Zuyun did not deny it, and felt relieved unconsciously. But, what is that so-called magical power? The weapon immortal can also be called an immortal. As long as it is not aimed at my immortal soul, then even if the weapon is destroyed, I will not die. However, I am far away from here, so I borrowed this jade slip to see you glance. But boy, you are interesting, you actually practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. Zuyun was shocked, what's wrong with the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra? It's not right, it's hugely wrong. There was a hint of sarcasm in Xianxia's voice. Maybe he thought Zuyun wouldn't notice, but he didn't know that Zuyun had dealt with countless insidious people in order to continue on the path of immortality. Too much. But one thing is true. If you continue to practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, as long as you have enough longevity, you can naturally ascend to immortality. Why is that inappropriate? Isn't the purpose of cultivating immortality just to ascend to the immortal world? Zuyun was a little dissatisfied. Ha ha ha, the ascension you want is the end, but how do you know that it is just a starting point? No, 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 for those who practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra, after ascending to the immortal world, it is also the end. Zuyun could understand the first half of the sentence. He is in the mortal realm, from Yunzhou to Yazhu, from Ya realm to Peepa realm, from Peepa realm to spiritual realm. Thinking about it, the same is true from the lower world to the fairy world. But in the second half of the sentence, why is it said that after practicing the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra and ascending, it is the end? Is it possible that there is really a conspiracy in this? For a moment, Zuyun shuddered in his heart, but he had no clue. It was exactly the same as his previous guess. Xian, what do you know? Can you tell me? Zuyun could feel that Xian was not here to help him, but just to watch the fun. Of course I know, but why should I tell you? Xian's voice was full of playfulness. Don't you want to go back to the glazed mirror of the universe? Zuyun was puzzled. He immediately thought of the conditions for exchanging information with Xian. I can collect as many fragments of Dao glazed mirror in the lower world as possible. Hey, Xian smiled, I finally escaped from the glazed mirror of the universe and am free in the fairy world, and you want to lock me back again? Boy, why do I need to tell you? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 888. Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but feel suspicious and asked, then why did you come from the fairy world? Immortal, it's rare that you encounter something interesting. Shouldn't you come over and take a look? Xian chuckled, making it impossible for Zuyun to hear the other party's attitude. But at least Zuyun knew some important information. For example, the cosmic glass mirror and the interesting 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. Okay, boy, I hope I have a chance to meet you again in the fairy world. Maybe I can tell you what you want to know then. Zuyun was disdainful, I have arrived in the fairy world, I still need to ask you. But in just such a moment, his consciousness had withdrawn from the jade slip, and the weapon immortal had also disappeared. Wait, it's gone now? Isn't there any other information in the jade slip? Zuyun quickly looked at the jade slip, and as a result, the jade slip also changed. Originally, it was completely green, but now, it has completely lost its color. It is a piece of dead jade. Zuyun's expression changed. Originally, every time you break through a major realm, you can get benefits from the jade slips. But now, it's gone. Zuyun originally didn't know the purpose of Xian's coming here. But looking at this dead jade, he already had a guess. The jade slip must contain the remnant soul of the immortal, and the immortal is here to take away the remnant soul and make him stronger. Damn it! Zuyun cursed secretly, but was unable to do anything, so he had to sit on the ground and sulk. Owner. Xiao He heard Zuyun's voice and couldn't help but stop what he was doing and walk to the edge of the cave, feeling a little worried. It's okay, just busy with you. Zuyun responded and adjusted his mentality at the same time. The most important thing about Dao glazed mirror is the speed of time. As long as he breaks through, changes will occur in the immortal mansion, which can reduce the time for him to practice. Zuyun stood up, felt it carefully, and found that the difference in time flow speed had become larger again, and his mood finally improved. Do you want to wait for me in the fairy world? Then just wait, I will definitely live well. Zuyun thought to himself, and then decided to leave the immortal mansion to take a look. I hope that after so long, those monks have dispersed. He dodged out, and when he found himself in a cave, his heart skipped a beat for no reason. Obviously, someone discovered the Dawu glass mirror. But fortunately, the person who picked it up did not refine the mirror. Otherwise, the Dawu glazed mirror would not be on my chest now. Zuyun secretly rejoiced and began to look around, his face suddenly looking strange. Natural formation? And this formation is so mysterious. Looking at the natural formations and the spiritual energy flowing around them, Zuyun knew his situation. The person who picked up the treasure must be still studying the Dao glazed mirror, but for some reason, it is not here. Just in time, I also took the opportunity to run away. Thinking of this, Zuyun began to look squarely at these formation patterns. The mystery of this natural formation is not to trap people, but to isolate spiritual power from outside sounds. Zuyun quickly found a way to get out of the formation, and he left the cave in a flash. However, the huge thunder in the sky frightened him. So many people broke through the divine transformation stage together. He took a breath of cold air, but he didn't notice that there was another person standing not far away. Wang Qingshan. Boy, who are you? In the later stage of Wang Qingshan's transformation into a god, although he was looking attentively at the disciple who was making a breakthrough, as soon as Zuyun appeared, he noticed that his face was not friendly immediately, and there were handprints in his hands, and there was a possibility of taking action at any time. Forward. Zuyun subconsciously wanted to call out to his senior, but he thought that he was also in the stage of becoming a god, so what else was there to be afraid of? Moreover, this person was so close and had a wary look on his face. He was obviously the person who picked up his Diwu glazed mirror. Fellow Taoist, I'm just here to see the excitement. Zuyun said with a smile. Originally, he wanted to punch directly. But on the side of the mountain where Lei Ji was standing, there was a group of dark people, including monks who couldn't see through the realm of cultivation. They had to endure it even if they didn't want to. Watching the excitement? Then why are you here? Where did you come from and what is your purpose? Although Wang Qingshan also had scruples, at least he was from his own sect and was not as afraid to take action as Zuyun was. Looking at Zuyun, he was still in the early stage of becoming a god, so he naturally said with an overwhelming aura. What he was thinking was this kid here to steal his magic weapon? Fellow Taoist, Zuyun was immediately dissatisfied and said, as I said, I am just here to see the excitement. Why, the sky is so big, could it be that they all belong to you? Ha, Wang Qingshan said with a sneer on his face, this place is the Cyanwood Peak, the boundary of the Cyanwood sect, and I am none other than the leader of the Cyanwood sect, Wang Qingshan. Do you think, is this territory mine? Upon hearing this, Zuyun was stunned. Good guy, you didn't get fooled now. Seeing that the other party might take action at any time, he rolled his eyes and couldn't help laughing. It turns out to be Sect Master Wang. No wonder, there are too many people watching over there, and there are strong men and powerful people. I'm afraid I disturbed others, so I used some magic and came here. Little magic. Wang Qingshan sneered, even I can't detect it, how can it be called a small magic? Of course it's a minor spell, but it's a wood escape technique. I'll call it the wood escape technique from now on. Zuyun could sense at this time that Wang Qingshan was a monk who majored in wood spiritual power. When he spoke, he had already transformed the chaos power in his body into part of the wood spiritual power, which was slightly revealed and circulated around him. Huh? Are you also a wood cultivator? The wood escape technique is indeed a small magic, and Wang Qingshan can do it too. Of course, the two of them practiced different techniques, but the escape techniques that used wood-type spiritual power were all called wood escape techniques. Fellow Taoist, your wood spiritual power. Wang Qingshan was actually interested in Zuyun's wood spiritual power. Not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. Zuyun waved his hands quickly, but in his heart he was thinking about how to leave the King Mu sect in full view of everyone. If there are too many people, it's easy for something to happen. You think it's not worth mentioning, but when you order the wood spirit root, you can feel that your Taoist friend's method of refining qi is extraordinary. Didn't you know that you come from the sect of Tianweishan family? Wang Qingshan's eyes flashed. Even though, all those who survived the tribulation in the nascent soul stage successfully reached the divine transformation stage. But he knew that these people would not be able to make a big impact for a while. On the contrary, if Zuyun can be won over. If it were before, he wouldn't dare to think about it. But now that he has a magic weapon that can release pure spiritual power, he can undoubtedly attract many monks to like him. He has already thought about how he can let Zuyun taste the sweetness little by little and let him work for the King Mu sect wholeheartedly. By then, the growth of the Aoki sect will naturally come naturally. You're welcome, Sect Master Wang. I'm just a single person here. I'm just practicing all the Qigong techniques blindly. Zhu Yunren is such a good person that he can't tell Wang Qingshan's thoughts. He is used to being single, not to mention that he has a new goal at this time, which is to search for the golden spirit pearl wholeheartedly. If he joins the sect, his actions will be restricted. Besides, my identity is sensitive, and as long as I show a trace of chaos power, I may be killed, so it is best to be alone. Fellow Taoist, don't belittle yourself. Although this King Mu sect is only a third-rate low-level sect, I have great confidence that it can break through to the void refining stage. By then, it will be promoted to a third-rate middle-level sect. To be honest, within this sect, there is only one person in the stage of transformation into gods. Although they are all in the process of transcending tribulation, it will take a long time to stabilize their realm. On the contrary, it is Taoist friends who have pure spiritual power and are stronger than them. They are also cultivators. If you join in the cultivation method, I promise that you will be the deputy sect master. Wang Qingshan was overjoyed when he heard that Zhu Yun was a Sanren. He was afraid that Zhu Yun had a sect and was a disciple of a big force. This is very difficult to dig. That's why he promised so. Zhu Yun didn't expect that Wang Qingshan was like a candy. But then again, why did he say that he was extremely confident that he could break through the void refining stage? At this moment, the thunder in the sky began to slowly subside. It turns out that these monks have withstood the thunder one after another, and they have successfully overcome the disaster. For a moment, a corresponding number of vortexes appeared in the clearing of King Mu sect, and began to absorb the spiritual energy in the air crazily. Not to mention the ordinary monks who were watching, even those powerful ones also retreated slightly. Because the closer you are to the vortex, the greater the impact of the vortex. Zhu Yun didn't respond, but he was thinking in his heart, should he take advantage of this opportunity and run away? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 889. Zhu Yun's soul is already stronger than ordinary monks, not to mention, after experiencing the golden thunder heavenly tribulation this time, the strength of his soul is even better than Wang Qingshan. Faintly, he had an intuition. If you don't run now, you may be in bigger trouble later. Only. As soon as this thought came to mind, an extremely terrifying roar came from the distance. Hold head high. Dragon roar. Not only Zhu Yun and Wang Qingshan, but the monks on the periphery also looked towards the place where the sound came from. I saw, in the sky, a giant dragon flying quickly in the air, arriving in the blink of an eye. Demon Dragon Emperor. Someone recognized him and shouted in the crowd. What's more, it actually flew up from the crowd and stood directly in the way of the Demon Dragon Emperor. Demon Dragon King, long time no see. How are you? Zhu Yun saw that there was almost no breath in him, and he was sure in his heart that this was a powerful person. At least it's powerful in the Mahayana period. A realm that even he can't see through. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that I could meet an old acquaintance in this poor place. Fellow Daoist Chen, I didn't expect that after so many years, your realm has not declined. Everyone was frightened again. Chen Tianqiao. I didn't expect him to be here too. Demon Dragon King, Chen Tianqiao said with a smile, how about we catch up on old times later? That's natural. The demonic dragon emperor turned around, and his body stretching into the sky suddenly transformed into a man in dragon robe, floating in the air and standing beside Chen Tianqiao. Then, the two fell almost at the same time. Everyone around you, move away. There is no need to say much about the Demon Dragon King. Even if some people have never seen him, they have heard of his name. Moreover, when they came over, they had an overwhelming aura and an invisible pressure, which made them extremely uncomfortable. Not to mention Chen Tianxiao. Tianji sect, the transcendent force of heaven and earth. And he is the sect leader. Ha ha ha, Dragon Emperor, Brother Chen, can you take this old man with you to reminisce later? In the sky, laughter suddenly sounded again, and an old man in grey robe suddenly appeared. When he landed, the monk next to him discovered that the grey robe was actually caused by stains on the white protective clothing. How many years has it been since a cleaning spell was used? No, how lazy is this person to let such a powerful person not even use a thought? Hey, the dirty thing is here? Stay away from me. Chen Tianxiao pinched his nose pretending to be disgusted, but he couldn't stop smiling on his face. Chen Tianxiao, are you afraid that you have forgotten the old man's skills? The old man in grey robe was so angry that he reached out and touched Chen Tianxiao's face. The speed was so fast that no one could see clearly, only a black shadow was seen passing by. How can ordinary people's hands be so dark? This is obviously because you don't even wash your dirty hands. Venerable Zhangdao. He is Zhangdao Venerable. Finally, someone remembered something and screamed. Among the crowd, there was another gasp of cold air, as if the temperature of the entire Aoki Peak was about to drop. Rumor has it that the Zhangdao master was no different from an ordinary monk, and he also practiced normal techniques. But for some reason, the Zhangdao master had a bad stomach, and a monk had diarrhea for 3 days and 3 nights. For a time, he became the laughing stock of the entire spiritual world. Later, Master Zhangdao seemed to be a different person, but his strength also improved by leaps and bounds. Rumors arose again that the master of the Zhangdao had comprehended a brand new Tao. It's just dirty. The dirtier he is, the faster he will practice. Over time, his real name was forgotten. The reason why people forget about him for a moment is because the Zhangdao master never appears in places with strong spiritual energy to practice. Wherever it is dirty, he will go. Ha ha ha, you dirty thing, there's nothing you can do about it, Chen. While Chen Tianxiao was chatting and laughing, his figure had turned into a shadow. Zhangdao master touched the empty space with one hand, but turned around and touched another place. Huh. Chen Tianxiao was surprised, he didn't expect this dirty thing to be able to find his position. It seems that his strength has also improved a lot, and he is not weaker than himself at all. This time, Chen Tianxiao did not dodge and allowed the Zhangdao master to touch the jade-white protective clothing on his body, leaving a black handprint. You can hide, why not? After being hit by one move, the Zhangdao master actually looked a little dissatisfied. The demon dragon emperor smiled and said, "Dirty thing, with your temper, if you don't leave anything on Daoist Chen, I'm afraid you will chase him for several years. We have business now." Ah, yes, yes. The Zhangdao master came to his senses, nodded repeatedly, and said with a smile, "I almost forgot, but little Loach, I remembered that you called me dirty. I will touch it on your dragon robe later, otherwise, don't. It's my fault, old man, for being so rude. It's easy to say, it's not a big deal." The dragon demon emperor didn't seem to care, as there was another person in the open space. Chen Tianxiao, the demon dragon king, and the Zhangdao master. They couldn't even avoid it. Even these 3 people are here. Could it be that the legendary Xianxia platform is about to be born? Everyone was thinking this, but Zuyun was horrified. The demon dragon emperor actually has such a good relationship with 2 human race powerful men? He didn't know Chen Tianxiao, nor did he know Zhangdao Venerable. But looking at the reactions of those people, you can tell that these 2 people are not easy to mess with. If he does something strange, it will definitely attract their attention. Or, take the totem pole or the dragon suppressing stone and take the initiative to find the demon dragon king to build a relationship. Zuyun was entangled in his heart for a long time, and thought that he should wait and see the situation first. Daiyu, Daiyu, how are you thinking about it? Wang Qingshan, who was beside him, also came back to his senses. Seeing Zuyun lost in thought, he thought that he should be thinking about it, so he asked this question. Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master Wang. I am used to being casual. If I join the sect, I am afraid that I will cause trouble to the sect in the future. This decision is easy to make, so Zuyun said it directly. Daiyu, consider it. Our Qingmu sect has a bright future in the future, and if we miss this village, there will be no such shop. Wang Qingshan was also a little dissatisfied. Admittedly, his previous attention was also on Chen Tianqiao, Zhangdao Zunzun, and the Demon Dragon King, but he thought that they were just watching the excitement of this mere heavenly tribulation of breaking through the Dragon God period. When this vortex ended, they dispersed. After all, he came here with the magic weapon, but no one knows. Even the Dragon Emperor. But didn't the Dragon Emperor seal the 8 desolate valley? Why is he here again? Wang Qingshan thought to himself. Fortunately he was able to analyze that the Dragon Emperor did not come for the treasure. Otherwise, with such a treasure, would the Dragon Emperor still be in the mood to reminisce with others? Perhaps, he came here just to reminisce. Thinking so, Wang Qingshan relaxed and turned to persuade Zuyun, which made Zuyun very annoyed. If there were not so many people, he would definitely give Wang Qingshan 24 big slaps, all with chaos palm. Master Wang, I said I would not join your section, I just came to watch the fun. If you continue to entangle, don't blame me for the bad things. Hearing this, Wang Qingshan's expression suddenly condensed, and anger arose in his heart. I have good intentions, but you treat me like this? Just a casual person. In the early stage of the transformation of the spirit, this sect master lowered his status, which was considered to be a great face for you. Boy, are you looking for death? Wang Qingshan became more and more angry as he thought about it, and stretched out his hand to grab Zuyun. Seeing that his 5 fingers all emitted pure wood spiritual power, they turned into 5 green vines in an instant, as if to tie up Zuyun. Not good. Zuyun's face changed. He didn't expect Wang Qingshan to dare to take action in the presence of so many people. Isn't he afraid of angering those cultivators above the transformation of the spirit? But the current situation doesn't allow him to think too much. Zuyun did not hesitate to use the teleportation. Swish. 5 vines fell into the air, but Zuyun appeared 500 steps away. This is the same distance as when he used teleportation in the mortal world. But the spiritual pressure in the spirit world is even greater, and ordinary transformation of the spirit stage can't even reach this level. For example, when Zuyun first came to the spirit world, teleportation was not as good as his step with the longevity formula. Almost everyone looked over when they found the spiritual power moving. However, when they found Zuyun teleporting 500 steps away, everyone exclaimed. Even Chen Tianqiao couldn't help but exclaim that it was incredible, and Zhang Daozun narrowed his eyes and revealed a gleam of light. And the Demon Dragon King said something even more shocking. I feel a familiar breath on this kid. Why don't you two help him? Without waiting for the two to respond, the Demon Dragon King's body suddenly disappeared. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 890. Before coming to Qingmu Peak, the Demon Dragon Emperor had already refined all the remaining Dragon Suppression Stone and Xiao Hei's aura in the 8 Wasteland Valley. At his level, pure spiritual power can only help him improve his strength to a very limited extent. And the Dragon Emperor has reached the point where he can trigger the last heavenly tribulation at any time. In other words, he, Chen Tianqiao, and Zhang Daozun are all in the tribulation crossing stage. But the Dragon Emperor has an obsession in his heart, that is, to become a real dragon and then cross the tribulation, to go to the fairy land as a real dragon, and become a dragon fairy. Otherwise, he would not have stayed in the spirit world for so long and lived in seclusion. Similarly, he does not care about the ascension stage. With his strength, it is no problem for him to be the only person who passes the ascension stage. However, after passing the ascension stage, he is still a demon fairy. This is not what he thought. Of course, strong men in the tribulation crossing stage, such as Chen Tianqiao and Zhang Daozun, also have similar ideas. They can trigger the heavenly tribulation at any time, but they are not ready to ascend. In other words, they have to face the heavenly tribulation in the best condition. Therefore, only cultivators below the crossing tribulation stage care about the ascension platform. But the ascension platform is an extremely mysterious existence. In simple terms, the ascension platform is not an existence that tests the realm. The higher the realm, the more difficult it is to pass. Those with a low realm may not even be qualified to enter the ascension platform, because those strong men will stop them. Not to mention, only transcendent forces know the rules of the ascension platform, so ordinary cultivators cannot be prepared. Because there is no conflict of interest, he has a good relationship with Chen Tianqiao and Zhang Daozun. The reason why he came here is actually to refine the two kinds of aura and see the vision of the sky outside the sky. That kind of inexplicable power. After all, the demon dragon king is a demon, and his momentum is no less than that of the deep sea demon beast. The sea monster can discover the effect of that power, and the dragon king naturally feels it, and it just happened to catch up with the valley, so the dragon king can't wait to rush here. However, he was still a step late, and did not feel the power from the Dongfan realm up close, but met an old acquaintance instead. And after Zuyun moved, he smelled a familiar breath from Zuyun. This breath was not the real dragon breath, nor the smell of the dragon stone, but the breath of the Dongsheng realm demon race that had never faded. Obviously, this kid came from the Dongfan realm and had been to the Dongsheng realm. The breath on his body had not faded, but he had reached the spiritualization stage. The Dragon Emperor keenly discovered that this kid must have something extraordinary on him. At the same time, think about it again. Maybe the dragon stone was also brought by this kid. While talking, the figure of the dragon demon emperor also appeared beside Zuyun, and Zuyun's face suddenly changed. Unexpectedly, the feeling in his heart before actually came true. What he least expected was that the dragon demon emperor was so terrifying. Boy, this emperor has something to ask you. After the dragon demon emperor appeared, he stretched out his hand and grabbed Zuyun. Zuyun didn't dare to stay, and immediately teleported again, fleeing towards the bottom of Qingshan Peak. He had never thought about why he would escape from such a strong man. Just as his figure appeared, two figures, one black and one white, suddenly appeared. Hey, Xiao Niu, is he afraid that he will use too much power and trigger a heavenly tribulation? No wonder he asked us to help. It was Zhang Daozun. Zuyun felt that he hadn't even caught his breath, and a black hand touched his face, and at the same time, there was a spiritual power on his palm that he couldn't understand. This side was Zhang Daozun, and the other side was Chen Tianqiao. I don't know what kind of magical power Chen Tianqiao used. He didn't talk as much as Zhang Daozun, but silently transformed into a phantom to block Zuyun's way. 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. Zuyun held his breath and used teleportation again. But he was horrified to find that his teleportation was a little delayed this time. Without time to think about why, Zuyun made a prompt decision, and the wood spirit power on his body turned and quickly turned into wind spirit power. Zuyun's speed suddenly increased, and he rushed out of the encirclement of the phantom. Huh! Zhang Daozun's hand also missed, and he couldn't help but exclaimed. It's not that his hand is so fast, facing Zuyun, who is in the god transformation stage, he didn't even use much strength. Like Chen Tianqiao, he has the same concerns as the Dragon Emperor, that is, he is afraid of triggering the heavenly tribulation. However, the consequences of their triggering the heavenly tribulation are much smaller than those of the Dragon Emperor. Brother Chen, this kid is quite powerful, he actually turned from wood spirit power to wine spirit power. Both of them were caught off guard, but they didn't take it too seriously. After all, what kind of storm can a god transformation stage turn over in the hands of the three of them in the tribulation stage? If you say anything more, this kid will run away. At this time, the demon dragon emperor also teleported to see that the two did not move, and said with a dark face, "Why should I be afraid of a little loach?" Zhang Daozun laughed and said, "I'll let him run for an hour, but he can't get away." "Dirty thing, stop bragging, you didn't touch him just now, and you can't feel him even if he runs far away." Chen Tianqiao is very clear about Zhang Daozun's magical powers. Anyone touched by his hand will leave a black mark. This black mark will last for a long time. As long as he wants, he can't hide in the world outside the sky, not to mention most of the spirit world. Ah, right, Zhang Dao Venerable suddenly realized, this is the first time I failed against a junior. "Hey, little loach, why did you catch him?" Zhang Dao Venerable still did not move, but continued to ask the Demon Dragon King. "I'll tell you if I catch him." The Demon Dragon King was almost furious. This dirty thing was not only dirty but also talkative. If it was a reminiscence, it would be fine, but now he was catching someone, and he didn't dare to use his full strength. No, to be precise, he didn't even dare to use 10% of his strength. "Dirty thing, Dragon King, you two keep an eye on it, I'll try." After Chen Tianqiao finished speaking, his figure disappeared. But in a moment, he caught up with Zhu Yun's teleportation. But this place has already left the range of King Mu Peak. Zhu Yun's 500 steps are equivalent to 1 mile. No matter how strong the eyesight of these cultivators is, they can't turn, including Chen Tianqiao. However, he can feel the wind spirit power, which is unique among all the cultivators. "Little guy, my friend Chen wants to ask you something, why are you running away?" Zhu Yun, who was teleporting non-stop, suddenly had several phantoms around him. He knew that Chen Tianqiao was here, and wanted to repeat his old trick and use the wind spirit power to escape from the phantoms surrounding him. After all, the phantoms blocked him from all sides, but not from top to bottom, so he left him a loophole to exploit. "Senior, I'm afraid." Zhu Yun didn't feel any malice in Chen Tianqiao's words, but getting along with such a powerful person, a wrong word might lead to a disaster of killing. "I can't afford to play, can't I run away?" Zhu Yun flew towards the ground while speaking. Interesting, the purity of the wind spirit power is similar to the wood spirit power he showed before. If he wasn't a single spirit root, I almost thought he was from the Sword Valley. The phantom returned to Chen Tianqiao and disappeared again. The next moment, Zhu Yun was trapped in the phantom again. This time, Chen Tianqiao also exerted a little force, blocking the upper and lower directions. Zhu Yun's teleportation was restricted, and there was no way out. "Senior, please let me go." Zhu Yun wanted to cry but had no tears, and kept begging for mercy. "You powerful people, why did you find me, a god transforming stage? If I had known earlier, I would not have come to the spirit world first. It has been so long since I came here, and I have never been at peace." "Little guy," Chen Tianqiao said with a smile, "Chen was also entrusted by someone. The Demon Dragon Emperor just wants to ask you some questions. If you answer to his satisfaction, he will naturally let you go. Of course, he may also reward you with some treasures. This Dragon Emperor is very rich." Zhu Yun was not interested in treasures at all. What treasure can compare to his Dao glass mirror? Wait. When it comes to Dao glass mirror, Zhu Yun suddenly thought of a possibility. The Dragon Emperor seems to be practicing too fast. Could it be that there are also fragments of Dao glass mirror? Hu Chong once mentioned to him that compared with other tribes, the demon dragon tribe cultivates very slowly because they have more dragon blood. They are far inferior to ordinary demon tribes in terms of realm improvement. But this does not mean that the demon dragon tribe is weak. On the contrary, this is equivalent to consolidating the foundation. It is somewhat similar to practicing the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. For ordinary demon cultivators, it takes 10,000 years to reach the tribulation period. Let's count the demon dragon emperor less and say 20,000 years. But the demon dragon emperor, it has only been 10,000 years since he reached the spirit world. So, he came to me because he sensed the Dao glass mirror on my body? Just thinking about this. The dragon emperor and Zhang Dao Zun appeared beside him, and Zhu Yun saw them through Chen Tian Qiao's shadow.